Sacrifice.
Success.
Respect.
Honor.
90.
100. 100.
Family.
Friends.
Art.
Creativity.
Peace.
War.
Discipline.
Conscious.
Perseverance.
Success.
90 over 90 is excited to be on the road in Greensboro, North Carolina to meet and talk with John Neal. John was born on March 5th, 1926 in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina. He's retired from a long career as a technical illustrator after studying art in New York City. He was married to the late Blanche Boomer for over 50 years, and together they raised three children, Cindy, Libby, and John. John is a proud grandfather of 4 and great-grandfather of 4. He is retired from his career and currently lives in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. John is an accomplished artist and enjoys creating beautiful art, some of which he has brought with him today to share with our 90 over 90 and with our audience. John, welcome to 90 over 90. Good to see you.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
You mentioned when you came in, and I know you traveled a long way. Your daughter has come all the way from Annapolis, Maryland. And
I appreciate that.
We are very honored to have you here.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned when you came in that you may be or asked if you were the first sibling that we had interviewed, and I want to give a shout out to your sister, who we interviewed early on in the process, and so we're really excited to be able to interview another member of the family and to find out a little bit more about what life was like with you growing up, and also whether or not any of the stories that your sister told were actually true or if she made them up. So,
I understand, sure.
Now you are younger, a couple of years younger than Julia, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. I mentioned in the intro that you grew up in Mecklenburg County. That Mecklenburg County back in the mid-20s was not exactly Charlotte. You lived way out in the country. Tell us about that.
Well, it wasn't, say, 12 miles from Charlotte, in the, what they call a Still Creek community. And, you know, I guess 12 miles back then was quite a distance. But the farm we were all born, I guess, on, was run by my father. I don't know what Julie told you about it, but the owner lived in Charlotte, and my father ran the farm.
So there are 8 kids and your mom and your dad, so there's 10 of you.
Yeah, right.
Well, what do you mean by ran the farm? What does that mean?
Actually, the owner gave my father the job to run the farm, to, you know, produce whatever was on that farm. And the big house he rented out, see. I said he ran the farm because he didn't have a store boss. He ran the farm.
I see.
And he, whatever produced, whatever the deal they had, you know, with the owner, I don't know about, but I think it was a good relationship.
Was it, we'll get to your job on the farm in a moment, but what was the primary, do you recall what the primary crop was or what you
Well, it was a combination. It was cotton, corn, I think some other, you know, general crops like that.
Oh, what was
You had to rear, because you had livestock, and we had mules, horses, so you had to have food for them. A combination of things, you know, on the farm.
What was it like growing up on the farm?
Well, it was fine. You know, I felt my father could do anything, and my mom was the best cook in the world, so we had a good, sheltered life, probably too sheltered.
Why do you say too sheltered?
Well, we didn't know too much about the real world, see, you know. We walked to school. We went to you know about the 3-room school that we attended?
No, tell me about that.
She didn't tell you. Greer School had 3 rooms, 3 large rooms. We had 3 teachers, Mr. McKeithen, Mrs. Gilliard, Mrs. Thomas.
It's impressive that you remember their name.
And they divided the classes up. So it went from 1st to 7th grade. So somehow they managed to teach all those grades, the reading, writing, arithmetic, to all the kids. You know.
And so you attended that same 3-room schoolhouse for 7 years.
No, only 4.
Oh, 4.
We moved to Gaston County.
Oh, you did? Okay.
When I was in 4th grade.
Well, when you got out of school on a typical day, what was a typical day for you? What time did you get up? What did you do? Tell me
Well,
what your
we had
life-
to walk to school, and it's about a mile and a half.
Mhm.
And all the kids walked along out. You had to walk out from the farm to the highway, which was unpaved. You know, it had gravel on the road.
Uh-huh.
And we walked to school, and you got there, and I guess they had the curriculum divided up. Each teacher what they had to teach. And I think they did a pretty good job.
They must have.
Yeah.
Were you? What kind of student were you?
I was a good student,
You
I
are. I
think.
mean, you don't want to brag on
I had
yourself.
an eager to learn. We all did.
Where did that come from?
I guess my father, I guess.
Uh-huh.
The thirst for knowledge,
Uh-huh.
I would say my father.
And
My father learned to read in church.
oh,
By going to church.
wow.
That's how he learned to read.
Sounds like he was a big influence on your life.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, when you got out of school, you walked home, obviously.
Walked home,
And then what was
we
your-
had chores to do.
What were those? Tell us about some
Oh,
of them.
well, mine was bringing in the wood, you know. And,
So because you cooked and heated with wood, I guess.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I mean, you didn't have any. A lot of people don't understand that there was a time when.
There was a time when you didn't have electricity.
Yes.
There was a time when you didn't have all these fancy things you have now. We didn't have those things, you know.
Do you think that was? Well, I guess all your brothers and sisters had chores to do.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And what kind of? I don't want to spend too much time on this, but what kind of disciplinarian were your parents? Were they? Who did the discipline? Was any needed? Or were you all pretty well-behaved children, or did you ever get into some kind of
Well,
trouble?
that's virtually impossible with, 8 kids. So you're going to have conflicts.
Uh-huh.
My problem was we were always in the minority. There was only 3 boys and 8 girls. See?
I see.
So
They ruled the roost.
plus my mom. My mom was the disciplinarian in the house. She ran her house, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And when you got out of line, you got whipped.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You were told once your chores, and if you didn't do your chores, you got it. Yeah.
So you didn't get it but one time, right?
Well, I'm trying to remember. No, I was pretty
Pretty good
obedient.
kid,
though.
yeah.
I never got in trouble in school.
You didn't?
Yeah.
So you moved to Gaston County, but tell me, if you could, a little bit about your memories of the farm, if you could kind of summarize what you remember your life was like and how you would describe it for somebody who hadn't lived in that time and who never lived on a farm or been around it. Tell me, did you feel like you had a lot of freedom? You said you thought you were a little bit closeted in the sense that you didn't see the real world.
You did have freedom. There was a lot of things to do as a kid, you know. I had a chance to ride bareback once on a horse. And we could always go fishing. The only thing you had to do was go out in the backyard, dig up some worms, and have a little simple fishing pole with some hooks, and you were off across the field and down through the woods to the backwater. You fish. You
Is
caught
that the
catfish.
Catawba River? Was that where you?
It was a backup from, the dam, and of course, you get water backed up from the
Right.
Catawba River.
So
My brothers learned how to swim.
you did not?
No, because I had to watch to see if anyone was coming,
Oh, I see.
because they were swimming in their birthday suits.
Oh, I see. Oh,
See, and
You
they
mean
said,
you
John,
didn't
you
have
look
a-
out and see if somebody's coming. You tell us now. But I did what they said, but there was no time to.
Did you ever just pull a Huckleberry Finn and just wander off and just said, I'll leave them on their own?
No, you didn't do that. I wanted to stay on the good side with my brothers. And, one brother in particular, my Clarence, he was named after his father. That was my favorite brother. He had a nickname, and they call him Dump, D-U-M-P. So Dump was my favorite. I would follow him like a shadow.
Uh-huh.
And he, handsome guy and everything. The girls looked at him admirably and everything. I said, I want to be like Dump. But we had a normal life, I think.
Now-
A good protective life.
Now, you and Julia, of the 8, are y'all, how many of your other brothers and sisters are still alive?
No, we're down to
Just the 2, okay,
Yeah.
all right. And so you moved to Gaston County, and I think your life changed a little bit because you were on a different farm, I guess.
Yeah, it was quite different.
What was that experience like?
Well, I think Julia was appalled by the house. It was supposed to have been a tobacco barn or something, she said.
Yes.
Well, I don't know anything about that, because when we got there, I was sort of like exploring around to see new scenes and everything like that. So I looked over and saw Spencer Mountain, and I said, I'm going to see that mountain. I took over across the field and down to the wooded area, because I figured it was maybe about 3 miles or something, I was looking. But it wasn't 3 miles, it was probably 30 miles. I was busy doing that, exploring the surroundings, when they were, lamenting about the house and everything.
Condition.
It didn't bother me. But one thing I did notice about that house, it had power.
Uh-huh.
It had electricity. And we had never lived in a house with electricity. Mr. Garrison wired his barn, a couple of barns, and I thought that was, sort of something looking up.
Step up, yeah.
Now, it only had one fixture. He had a pole chain. But
Okay, in the house.
in the house, you didn't have any,
Like these lights here.
no, you didn't have anything. Right in the center of the room, you had that one fixture, and you had a pole chain.
Uh-huh.
No, we had never experienced that before.
Now, where did you attend your remaining years of your grade school and high school?
Well, I was in the 4th grade, and it was a step up, because they were doing things that we didn't do in the 3-room school. I remember that's when I got my first job, odd job.
In the 4th grade?
Yeah.
And what were you doing?
My homeroom teacher needed some posters, and I did the posters for her, and she paid me.
How much did she pay you?
Well, they were less than $1 each. Because remember, it was the time when people were working for $1 a day,
Yeah,
$1 a day.
yeah. So that was a lot of money for you.
I didn't get the money.
Oh, you didn't know?
No, I used the money to buy some supplemental books that were required. And she had told me about it. She told me to tell my parents that I need those books. And I didn't ask my parents because I didn't think they had any money.
Right.
Yeah.
You're trying to save them a little.
Yeah. So I used the money she paid me to buy the books.
Okay. That's a good story. Not a lot of kids would have done that. They might have found another way to use that money.
Well, I felt my people were going through some difficult times.
Yeah, it was a depression.
Mm.
So everybody was in a bad way as far as
Sure. Mm-hmm.
as money was concerned. Well, when did you decide that you were going to? You graduated from high school, obviously, a good student. What were your dreams and aspirations at that point? What did you think that you might want to be in life, or did you know you didn't want to be a farmer like Julia?
No. Farming was out. I always wanted to do what I did. I wanted to be an artist.
When did you know that first?
Maybe in the second grade.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And what do you think drew you to art? And did you know that you could make a living in art?
I knew it was hard to make a living.
You found that out.
Yeah. When I graduated from high school, 2 weeks later, I was drafted in the Army.
Okay.
On D-Day. D-Day 1944, I became Private John Neal, Fort Bragg.
Well, that's right, because if we take a step back, World War II had been going on while you were in high school.
Sure, yeah.
And it was lingering, obviously, and when you got out, you became draft eligible. You were 18.
You had to register, and you were drafted, and you had to go in.
And so into the Army you went.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that. What was that like?
Well, I was down in Fort Bragg. I was thrown together with guys from all over. It was a little tough to adjust because you had to interact.
Was the Army at that point integrated, or were you with all African?
Oh, no.
You were just with other African Americans?
Yeah. We had African American non-coms, but all the officers were white.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And you stayed in the Army how long?
It was a couple of years.
Was it a positive experience?
Well, for a guy that hadn't been away from home but one night in my whole life, I think it was quite an experience.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
Did you have a trouble adjusting?
Well, I didn't have any choice. It was funny down at Bragg. The guys would take anything you had.
They would take anything?
Oh yeah, sure. I didn't have too much money or anything like that, but some awful things were going on there. That the kids were being robbed. They would take your underwear. And one thing that got me, I was pretty good on the range. You know, I had never had a rifle, but you know, on the range you had to practice.
Yes.
Holding, lollipop the bullseye. Hold it. Hold your breath. Squeeze. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty good at that, so I won a medal. So I put this medal on my uniform. Someone stole it.
Well,
It was still your underwear.
still your accomplishments.
The other thing that I had to get accustomed to in the Army was you had to suffer for the other guys when they screwed up.
Right.
The whole outfit
It's the
suffered
team
for it,
mentality.
yeah. And one incident, I have to tell you this. They decided once to have family style, where they put the food on, the table, and,
Yeah.
and you serve yourself and pass the food around the bowls or whatever. We had 3 guys, and we were having, I'll never forget it, we were having beef stew. Large bowls of beef stew that would accommodate all the guys at the table. But these 3 guys got these 3 bowls, and they practically put all the food on.
Leaving you none.
Well, whatever was left, it wasn't enough for the whole group. My sergeant was furious. He was so angry, he was trembling. He said, over the barracks, full field packed, 10-mile hike. We all had to go.
Oh my gosh.
To you didn't finish your food. Anything else?
Let me get this.
But that's the way the Army is. You
One for all and all for one.
Yeah, okay. But
Now,
it
were you deployed overseas, or were you able to stay in the United States?
No, after basic training, I got a 10-day pass. That was the only pass I ever got, and then we were shipped overseas.
And you were
Went to Europe first. I figured we were going to France, but it took us 3 weeks, to cross. And I knew by studying my geography that when I went through the Straits of Gibraltar, we weren't going to France, we were going somewhere else. We ended up in Italy. And Naples, Italy, that's where, we embarked and stayed there for a few days. And they shipped us north in these small landing aircraft, ICIs.
Did you see
at
any?
night.
Did you see any action?
It was waiting until your number came up.
Oh, okay.
My number never came up.
Was that scary?
No. Sometimes when you're young, you're curious.
Yeah. You're also
Well,
invincible.
Yeah. And you wonder how it is, where it's hot.
Yeah.
Some guys volunteered for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you made it back home safe and sound. And I want to get to your art, and we're moving pretty quickly. But I also want to find out how you met your beautiful wife, and tell me a little bit about how that happened, and what you remember about your meeting her and falling in love with her, and all the things that go along with that. Or if you care to talk about it, you may not want to talk about it.
Well, that's a part I don't mind talking about. I guess it's a part that got up to that.
Yes.
I'd have to tell you what I decided after service, starting there, that I always wanted to go to New York. I decided I would go to New York when I was in the 5th grade, studying geography and the tall buildings. And so then I had a chance with the GI Bill after the war and eligibility. I said, now it's time to go.
Yeah.
I didn't know anyone.
So you went by yourself, and
Well, I knew some people there, but no relatives.
and you enrolled in art school there.
Yeah.
Was that a good experience for you?
Well, that was shock. What did Sinatra say? If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere.
Yeah, yes, that's what he said.
That was tough.
It is true. So did you meet Ms. Boomer in New York?
Yes.
Tell us how that happened.
Well, we met on this job doing technical work.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What did she think of you, I wonder?
Our first encounter was during the fall. They're having a World Series, so they had this, this thing they put up, on the board, and you bet, you fill in the block, and on the score, the final score.
Oh, okay.
And this was being passed around in the office, and it was during lunchtime, and she came over and asked me if I knew where it was. I told her no.
That was an excuse to get to say hello to you.
Well, it's a funny thing, we didn't really speak as such. She was hired shortly after I was, and actually we were probably only two African Americans. So we were easily identified in the office.
Probably.
Our friendship developed over time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's
I was going through a very difficult period for me, and I was getting out of a bad relationship, and she was trying too. So we became friends, and it sort of developed.
blossomed. Yeah.
It
Sounded like
blossomed.
it worked out pretty well.
Well, it did. It lasted 51 years, 2 months, 18 days.
All right. Now, you went to art school. Your career, you found a career, as you described, or I described, as a technical artist.
Well, it came
Or
about
technical
through,
illustrator.
yes, I had worked with this artist, on the previous job, and I hadn't seen him for years. And he was doing his work study, like me. You had to work. And I actually go to school at night. So I hadn't seen him in a while, and he just happened to run across him in a bar, having a beer. I didn't have enough money to buy. He came in and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, not too much of anything." He said, "Well," I said, "How are you doing?" I said, I'm doing okay." He said, "You need a job?" I said, "Well,"
Talk to me. Talk to me.
he helped me prepare a sample, because that's how you got the job, by your portfolio, what you could do.
Yes.
And he helped me do the sample and gave me a name, person to call, and I went down for the interview. He said, "Well, you get dressed, you have to wear a tie and all that." I said, "Okay, fine." I was hired because they remembered him. He didn't resign. He said he took a leave of absence. So they were under the impression that he would come back, but he was going to better things.
So you took his place.
But they remembered him. He didn't burn bridges, and I never burned bridges either,
Right. Well, that's a
But
good advice
anyway,
for anybody getting a
I
job.
didn't know about anything about technical illustrations. Using tools and everything. I never had any drafting experience. You had to use triangles and pens and pencils.
So you brought an example with you.
But
Tell us about it.
what happened is it was a company that said they would encourage you to do things. They said, "We're cheap, we don't like to give raises, but if you apply yourself." So the only thing I wanted was a chance, And they gave me a chance, and working with other illustrators.
Is this the kind of an example of the things that you did as a technical
Well,
illustrator?
yes, this is something that I did for Volkswagen, but it's what they call an exploded view. And this is a seatbelt retractor. This was a code exhibit that I did for them. And they didn't have any drawing, so they gave me the actual seatbelt, and I disassembled one side. And they gave me the nomenclature, the names for it. And I drew it from the parts.
So you took the seatbelt retractor apart and drew it.
Yes, yeah.
That sounds like it'd be hard. Let's get some of his other artwork. We have some helpers here. I want you to tell a little bit more about some of your other work. This is, I guess, part of an advertising board that you assembled.
Yes, I did that for a presentation at the university to the art students. To survive in this industry, you have to do a lot of things. I must have done thousands of flip charts and log charts and things that it doesn't require any creativity to do, but
Pays the bills.
You have to have self-discipline.
We hold it up in front.
I see some guitars there. It must have been the 60s.
Most of these were my basement art. I have two in the basement at home.
Oh.
It was usually in the attic where I lived or downstairs. Most of these I did freelance.
is another one. It's similar, I guess, in nature.
Yeah, now this is the last company I ever worked at, Tricam. I worked with them, it's direct sale. And see, I had to bounce around from technical stuff to other stuff. This is strictly for women. You know, this direct sale I had, and doing little dainty things and working with girls. But, you know, I could adjust, you know.
Yeah, I like this.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall.
Who that was.
Oh, well,
And then you have some work that's, you seem to have a fondness for automobiles.
Oh, yeah, I collect die-cast cars. This was a challenge. Failure was not an option. I had very little information on it.
Another.
But my boss felt I could do it, so, you know, I'm not mechanically inclined. I'm not a mechanic or an engineer. But I had done like exploded views there, but this is a cutaway. That's a Volkswagen engine. Okay. You know, the engine's in the rear.
Yes, sir.
It's air-cooled. It's 4 cylinders. The cylinders go in flat as most cylinders go down. You have all, you know, the gears and all that.
Another Volkswagen product up here.
Yeah, Audi, you know.
Did you draw that just for fun?
Well,
or was
no, that was a commission. Attorney wanted something, a gift for his wife.
Oh, I see.
And a little different, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well,
she had an Audi, and
I guess if you can't afford the car, you can afford a picture of the car.
well, I think of his salary, I'm sure he could afford it.
I want to show one more of the picture of the lighthouse. Tell us about this painting you did.
Yeah, that was done from a photograph I took on vacation in Nova Scotia. We drove to Bar Harbor, Maine, and took a ferry, 7-hour ferry over to Yarmouth, and then we drove to Halifax. Now, Pecos Cove is it's a little village in the Halifax area.
This is watercolor.
Yeah, watercolor.
You did.
You have the massive rock and everything. It's similar to Maine. And this is a vacation. This is a post office they have there.
Oh,
Yeah. So I did this from a photograph, and I did it for the home because I had never done anything for the home.
for your home.
Yeah, you know.
Well, I think that makes sense.
But I took time to do those. They were all and did several other things.
Well, I think you ought to. It's a lot of fun to do art and give it away, but you ought to keep a piece or two for yourself so that you could.
Well, you know,
be
I was
inspired.
doing things for money.
That's true. Well,
But
John,
I did those, and it was a good memory because, you know, it's the last vacation we had.
yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure. I know you've come a long way. Your family has driven hours to be here, and it's just been a great pleasure to learn a little bit about your life and, you know, what makes you who you are, and I hope that it's been a beneficial experience for you. It certainly has for us. We've enjoyed having you here, and we'll see you on the internet. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate being here.
Got a big hand,
You know,
big, powerful hand.
90 over 90 was created to teach us about the past to help make a better future. Interviews are filmed and edited by Jack Sumner. 90over90.com is well managed by Mary Stevenson. Theme music written and recorded by Jack Sumner at the Point of Rock Studios. Special thanks to the Sumner Group.
Thank you.